Today I tried to get from an idea to a working prototype, including some iterations, in a matter of minutes, which normally takes an entire team and a week or two, unless you can code yourself. And I did it. And I want to talk about it, how I went from an idea. I skipped the idea due diligence step, which you shouldn't do in the real world, but it's to illustrate the ability to use AI and how to use AI and different AI tools to create this kind of prototype. So we'll go from my idea. I'll explain what it was, how I think about it, and then the exact steps that I took to ultimately have a working prototype on my machine that I can demo and test with actual users later on. Amazing. Let's jump in. Okay, so here's the idea. I was listening to a podcast, to an episode that explains how to find product market fit in 5 steps, and I liked it. And I had the idea of a little app or a way to turn it into an interactive learning module. Wouldn't that be cool? So I quickly thought about what should that be? What should it look like? There would be several lessons. They have a 5-step approach. So we see that here. It's the 5 steps to product market fit by a product market fit show. Good show. Thank you. Also, thank you, Stuart, for recommending it on LinkedIn where I first saw it. And what I've done then is first use ChatGPT and then Claude to create the code that I then used to actually run the app and then iterate on it. So let me walk you through. The first thing I did after listening to a little bit of it was go down to the transcript. Copied the entire transcript in here into ChatGPT 4.0. Large context window, so that works well. And I said that I wanted to create a lesson plan or lessons based on those 5 steps. So first of all, I need to make sure that it understands the 5 steps. So I let it spell out those 5. Great summary. Now turn each into a 5-minute lesson. Didn't really do it right because now it had activities. I said, and activities. What I meant was 5-minute lessons and then leading into activities. So I needed to quickly iterate there, which we will see here. So my instructions weren't clear. I want you to create 5-minute lessons and then activities for each lesson. So it expanded on the lesson text and added activities for each of the 5 lessons. The next thing I thought would be pretty good is to have a self-assessment quiz up front, because maybe I already do 3 of the 5 steps and I don't need to go through all the content if I already do some of it right now. So I told it to generate a self-assessment quiz. The quiz here, the questions were good, but they then gave me scoring based on the total points. It recommended lessons, which again was not the right thing to do. I wanted to recommend lessons based on the answers where questions were around the concept that is explained in the lesson. So I gave it another iteration and then it created something that was quite usable. And I was happy with that. So the next step would be to turn this into an interactive app. I still used the same thread to keep the context. And what it did was creating a kind of a PRD. Not a good one though, because it didn't have anything of like target audience and target segment and financial projection and all the stuff that idea due diligence would do for you, or what you would do through the idea due diligence. So I thought maybe it's the wrong tool. And I switched to Claude, which turned out to be a good switch, as you can see. So I gave it the information that I already liked. So from the conversation with ChatGPT, I only picked the elements that were vetted and approved by me, basically. So the second iteration of the lessons, the second iteration of the quiz. And now I changed the role. Before it was a teacher role, basically. Now I give Claude the software developer role with the task to create this as a learning app. I specify who it is for. It's for founders who want to find product market fit. And I copied and pasted the 5 lessons as well as the self-assessment quiz. That's all I did here. And it started generating Python code. And it then explained the Python code as well. So at this point, I want to say I am a former software developer. So I understand the code. I can read it. I can exchange things if needed. This, however, is not black magic. So any product manager can learn the level of software development knowledge you need to do something like I'm showing you right now in a month or 2 after work. So if you want help with that and get some pointers how to level up and upskill on the software development understanding side, you do not need to be able to write those things from scratch, but you need to be able to understand what the functions are doing, what you need to change if an error pops up, how to prompt Claude or ChatGPT to help you bug fix. However, I'm pretty impressed with what Claude put out because there were no bugs whatsoever. It was a copy-paste job. So what it didn't do in the first instance is add the lesson content. So when you look at the lessons, it just says lesson 4 content, lesson 5 content, and so on. So I asked it, please add the lessons and use good formatting. So it did that. Great. And now it created it as a command line tool. So everything happens in the command line, which I don't want to. I want it to be in a UI, in a user interface. So I asked it to do that. No problem whatsoever. It did a new file, all the new code. It said what it has done. I explained the rough UX and the user flow upfront. And this is what I took. It's simply copying and pasting it into my code editor, Visual Studio Code in my instance. And one of the problems, which is very common, is it trying to import a package. There's a quick solution to it, but just to show you how to deal with problems as they pop up, I got an error message saying no module named tkinter. And it gave me a potential solution and said if that's still a problem afterwards, you can have 2 different ways to deal with that. Let me know which one. In my case, it was fixed by running this command. And then I could run the app. And this is what it created. So it has 3 tabs, a home screen, a self-assessment screen, and a lessons tab. The welcome is just, hi, welcome to Product Market Fit Learning App. Let's go to the self-assessment. These are the questions from the self-assessment before, and I can answer them however I see fit. And whenever and I tested that, it does work. Whenever I do not select the A option, it recommends me the relevant lesson here. And if I go to the lessons, I can see the different lessons. These are the 5. And can view them and go through. We can see the objective, lesson content, short and sharp, and some activities that help you actually implement the recommendations and the tips that were discussed in the initial podcast. Fantastic. However, there was well, there were two issues that I instantly had with this. One is the recommended lessons were not linked. So I would need to remember which one and then go to the lesson tab, select it, click view lesson, and then that opened up in a new window, which is not the nicest experience. So I just asked Claude, or I gave feedback to Claude with these two elements, or making changes to those two elements. So it works now. Can you make the following adjustments after the quiz is completed? The recommendation should link to the lesson. And second, when clicking on view lesson, it should be displayed underneath the button and not in a new window. And now it says, certainly I'll make those adjustments. And this is where you need that understanding of knowing what kind of function is changing, where to replace what. Because it did create a new file, but it had these add other lessons here. So you can either copy this again and fill it up with the content, or you are as lazy as I am and I didn't want to copy paste again. I wanted to know what have you actually changed, and I copied it over. So I went through the explanation underneath. Otherwise, I would have asked, what were the changes? Can you point them out? But then I went through and say in the quiz, show quiz results method, replace text recommendations with buttons. Great. So I went up, show quiz results, and I took this entire function, cloned copied my initial app. Now I have an app v2, and just replaced the current function. Which one was it again? Show quiz results. Quickly, where are the show quiz results? Here. Simply copied the old one and pasted the new one on top. And now if I run the app again, this is now version 2. Same home screen, self-assessment. So let's do, it should show lesson 1 and 2, and 3, 4, and 5. It shouldn't, because I already said I know it. So it now links to lesson 1 and lesson 2. These are the right ones. You see here, lesson 1 before startup mode, lesson 2 only the insanely focused survive. And when I click it, it now opens the content, and not in a new window anymore, but underneath, just as I said. And I can view the other lessons, and they show underneath as well. How long did that take? 15 minutes. So within 15 minutes, maybe 20, I had an idea after seeing a podcast, and I was able to come up with a prototype. Now, it is maybe not on the form factor that you need it on if you want to build a mobile app, or if you want to have a new feature in one of your tools, but it's also not what you need many times. For the very first conversation, something like that is enough. You already identify red flags in the UX, and you can do early tests, early discovery tests with something like that by yourself. You do not need your engineering team. You do not need your designers. It's great to collaborate with them. Don't get me wrong. I encourage close collaboration with them early on in the process, even during idea due diligence. Get them in the room with the customers as you discover new things. But this gives you the option to develop prototypes by yourself within minutes. What that also means is that it's more likely that you're not falling in love with anything because you didn't put a lot of effort in. It was a quick check, a quick experiment, and you will get insights from testing that either internally or with some of your potential customers. So in terms of using AI, for product management work, I think this is a fantastic example on how to shave off hours, if not weeks of work to get to this initial version that shows how you think about a potential new feature or potential new app and make it tangible. And I was blown away when I saw how easy it was to do that. Again, you need some coding experience, but this you can learn quickly in a matter of days, weeks. So I hope you liked this kind of walkthrough. Let me know if you have any questions. Connect with me to discuss more of that. As I said, I will create more content across the product management workflow. And let me know, what else do you want me to explore? Which of your tasks or which of your things you would like to do more of, but you currently are constrained by other dependencies or just lack of time? Let me know in the comments or send me a message and I will start digging into these areas. Thanks for watching and see you next time.